right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry we're a few minutes late, but we're very excited. Today we have this morning on Great Minds in Quarantine, the amazing author, journalist, and also patient advocate, Jamie Reno. I am joined by my co-hosts, Alexis Dixon and Steve Chapple. So thank you, Jamie, for taking time out of your schedule. I know you've been writing a ton for Healthline, and I want you to talk about how important Healthline has been during COVID and with people at home tuning in to your site to find out about the issues. But it's just really good to see you. I think we haven't connected for a while. The cafe's been shut down. And we met over one of your extraordinary projects, the China Project, where you were trying to be a bridge between the cancer patients here in the States and in China. So we're just going to go ahead and kick it off and have you tell us a little bit about your role in Healthline. And I'm sure we're going to cover so many important topics today. I also wanted to just recognize, as I've seen one of my dear friends who is a cancer survivor start to share his journey about what it's like to be a patient. And he is helping people like myself who haven't been through the process, how we can be there for people who are going through this journey and be more caring and empathetic and understanding and just know what to say and how to handle the situation. So thank you again, Jamie, for coming on. And let's talk about Healthline. What are you doing there?
Absolutely. Great to see you, Amanda. I've missed you. I've missed Bella Vista. I hope you guys reopen soon. I know it's probably not going to be tomorrow, but I'll be there when it does. I promise you. And I'll be out recruiting people on the street to bring them back.
With masks.
With masks. Yeah, social distancing, but yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that about the big crowds. Maybe I'll bring a few people. How's that? Yeah. It's great to see you. Yeah, no, Healthline has been a great thing for me because, as you know, I spent 23 years at Newsweek. I was a kind of a traditional investigative reporter covering everything from 9/11 to the war in Iraq to the White House. But my personal cancer battle has kind of shifted my journalism priorities and my life priorities a little bit. And as you know, we met about 4 years ago for the China Project, which you explained very, very eloquently. I started writing for Healthline about that same time, about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. And I've become a regular investigative reporter. And for Healthline, by the way, we're now the #1 health news site in America. Before the pandemic, we had approximately 80 million monthly visitors. Wow. That doesn't mean 80 million people read every story I wrote, of course, but it's a substantial number.
Not yet.
Thank you. I like that confidence. But it is a really substantial. The thing that's best about Healthline is it's real journalism. We have real editors, real fact checking. I know it's quite a novel concept these days, but I'm very happy to be working for a company that does it right. So for Healthline, I've covered a pretty broad spectrum, but I have focused largely on cancer, on new treatments, on clinical trials, on the fact that not enough people do clinical trials. I'm alive because of a trial, as you may know, Amanda. I enrolled in a clinical trial of a radioimmunotherapy in 1999. It's a long time ago, but lately I've been writing a lot about COVID-19, and a lot of the stories have been related to cancer. For example, my last story that just came out a few days ago talked about a new study that was presented at ASCO, which is American Society of Clinical Oncologists. They have a monthly or a yearly, convention. This year, of course, it was remote, but it was still effective. They got all the press releases out. They did a great job. That's quite a scramble when you have to do a massive convention online. It's a challenge, but they did a pretty good job, I think. But one of the studies that came out during the convention was a new study, a pretty in-depth study of cancer patients and COVID. And this is a little scary and a little sensational, but it's true. They determined that people with active cancer are 5 times more likely to die within 30 days of a COVID diagnosis than people who have either stable cancer or are in complete remission. In other words, the people with active cancer who are going through treatment and or about to go through treatment. So that obviously, put the fear of God into me, as they say, as a patient who I am not technically in remission. I have lymph nodes in my abdomen. So we're in what we call watch and wait. And I've been watching and waiting for years, though. These lymph nodes are not growing. So I'm okay. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are, because of COVID and the fear of exposure to it, a lot of cancer patients are reluctant to get their treatment. They're reluctant to even go to a cancer hospital because they're scared of getting COVID. And with statistics like these, the last thing I want to do as a patient advocate is scare people, but they also need to know. But I will say on the positive side that all the oncologists that I interviewed and all the administrators at the various cancer hospitals, including Moore's Cancer Center, which is my hospital. And
here in San Diego.
Right here in San Diego, at UC San Diego, Moore's Cancer Center, an amazing facility with all kinds of brilliant doctors and researchers, all of whom Amanda knows, of course.
The whole crew knows.
It's a great group, though. It really is a remarkable group of doctors and scientists. And they assured me, they said, Jamie, please tell the patients you interview that to tell them to do not delay their treatment, especially if it's, advanced cancer. Some cancer treatments can wait if it's optional, if your cancer isn't growing. But if you are active, you need to go in and you need to see your doctor. Sandeep Patel, who's a brilliant oncologist
yes.
Sandeep, right? We talked last week and he basically said, Jamie, it's safer at our hospital than a grocery store.
That was going to be my question, because from the previous segments we've had, a lot of the people coming on, whether it's Dr. Katrina Jameson, Dr. Brenner, they've been telling us that same advice, that they're doing a great job in protecting their staff and keeping a safe environment for people that do need to come in and get cancer treatment.
That's amazing. Go ahead.
James, millions of people. How many people are in that kind of 5 times risk? Cancer case.
You know what? They didn't come out with a number in this study. Yeah. But when you think about every patient that's going through cancer treatment,
number 1, number 2 disease in America.
It's got to be millions. I really don't know. Wow. But because I don't think they did not go there. They did, because that's first of all, it's a pretty broad population, obviously. If we're talking about people with active cancer, that's got to be substantial,
Let me ask you a naive question. Active cancer, if you're, let's say you had breast cancer, a woman, and you're taking some kind of chemo for that, is that considered active?
Well, again, some treatments like that, typically if you're getting chemo, typically, and again, I'm not an oncologist, of course, but that generally means you have active cancer. But some treatments can be put off for a while, and you're going to be okay if your cancer is growing really slowly, which happens, But generally, if you're diagnosed with breast cancer and they want you to do chemotherapy, that typically means that you have an active type of cancer. So I would not put it off. But I totally understand the cancer patients who are reluctant. They're scared. And I'm scared. I started getting out, Amanda. I got out. My wife and I have gone to a couple restaurants where they have social distancing and they have patios.
Right.
I only go if I can go outside, and where they really socially distance, where they really do it right.
We're going to call it physical distancing.
Physical? Yeah, that's a better word, actually. Very much so. Thank you. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that from you.
That's the new word. Okay.
It's a good one though, because that makes more sense, really. Because social distancing is kind of nebulous. It's like, what does that mean exactly?
And that means you're like locked away. There's no sociability going on, I guess.
Right. But no. So I've been to a couple restaurants. I went to my wife and I love Costera down on the water in Harbor Island. Yeah. They do a tremendous job of social distancing, and they're outdoors. Most of it's outdoors, and we had a great dinner, and they're very conscientious You know, they have to be, of course, by law, but they're doing it right. And I just had to get out. You know, I've really been like all of us, you know, I've been locked in for a long, it's like watching these talk show hosts. They're going cuckoo, you know, doing the show from home. But it's, you know, we're all in the same leaky boat, I guess.
A few weeks, I don't know how long ago, but you did an article on something called natural killer cells.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a bit and what that is in terms of treatment modalities?
Absolutely. So it is also part of your immune system, part of your body. And this is a new immunotherapy. And Dan Kaufman, who's in your building, Amanda.
Okay.
Do you know him? Do you know who he is?
Dan Kaufman. I'm sure if I saw.
Okay. Anyway, he's in your building at Bella Vista, at the Stanford Consortium for Regenerative Medicine. Give them a plug. But it's he's done this, and Fate Therapeutics is also a San Diego biopharmaceutical company that are working on these natural killer cells, and they are in advanced clinical trials. They are sort of like CAR T. It's an immunotherapy, but it's off the shelf. You know, I've been covering CAR T a lot, also for Healthline, by the way. And this is the immunotherapy it's in the news. Everybody's talking about it. It's probably the most publicized and talked about immunotherapy now. There's several drug companies that already have approved treatments, and they are very, very effective. They even are saying that for some types of lymphoma and leukemia, for some people, they are a cure. The C word, the other C word, you know, which journalists and patient advocates like me are very reluctant to use, you know, because I don't want any hyperbole, or I don't want to get people overly optimistic. But CAR T is amazing, and NK kind of has similar properties. I couldn't tell you all the depths of the science, as I'm not a scientist, but I play one on TV, as they say. But it's really a fascinating and very, very next generation treatment, and they are headed toward approval also. Thank you for that question. And, you know, there's so many treatments like this, which I've been fortunate enough to cover in my books and in my journalism. It's hard to keep up, you know, I mean, because it's just there's so many to talk about. But CAR T and NK, those are both really good ones, really prominent. They're going to save a lot of lives. They already are saving lives in trials. And it's so much of that is happening right here in San Diego. It's remarkable. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm talking. I don't mean to monopolize this.
I did have a question.
Oh, you're the guest.
I know, but I don't want to monopolize this conversation.
Before we hopped on, we were talking a little bit about how you said you aren't a scientist. Right. And one of the reasons why I started writing initially for San Diego Magazine and then hosting the Virtual Social Club is because I own a restaurant where I serve scientists, but I have no idea about the science that they're doing. And so I really wanted to share the stories of what was going on. And we know that there's a huge importance of, especially now, people are giving science the credit that it's due. What is it like? Because you're saying you aren't a scientist and you have to, as a journalist, meet with these companies and figure out what it is they're doing and then put that in layman's terms for those of us that know speak of science. So what is that like?
That's a great question, Amanda. It's enlightening for me. If I could think of one word, it's enlightening. It's amazing to listen to these scientists talk about their technologies, and I'm learning so much. I'm a relatively smart guy. I do okay. I didn't study science. I had a few science classes, but I wasn't a science major. But I'm able to follow some of it, most of it. If they dumb it down a little bit for me, I can figure it out. And I'm learning a lot. I'm sort of learning what I'm learning most of all is the importance of my immune system, our immune system. Because so many of the treatments now are focused on our own immune system, which for so many years, many researchers and oncologists said, "Oh, we don't have an immune system." Or my first oncologist, and I won't name this person, it wasn't at Moores. That's all I will say. Nobody at Moores would ever say this. He told me when I was first diagnosed with lymphoma, because the first thing I said when he said, Jamie, I was 35, I was engaged to, you met my wife, Gabby. You know, I was engaged to Gabriella. You know, I was living on the beach in Crown Point, working for Newsweek. I had such a great life, and boom, I'm 35. I got a lump on my neck. Next thing you know, stage 4 lymphoma. You're going to live 3 to 5 years. You know, first thing I said to him, I said, how can I get my immune system to beat this cancer? And he looked down over his glasses and said, oh, Jamie, your immune system has nothing to do with your cancer. And I just shook this guy was pretty renowned. And I'm not going to name any names. That's not the kind of person I am, but I was shocked. Needless to say, I got a different cancer hospital and a different oncologist. Now I'm in very good hands at Moore's, but I was just like, wait, how can you say that with a straight face? I mean, come on, you know, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So ever since then, I've learned a lot about, especially my kind of cancer, obviously, because I'm a little selfish. I want to survive.
Could you explain what your cancer is? Because
absolutely. Well, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's a lymph node cancer. And it is part of your immune system. It is a immune-related illness. You know, and up to recently, they're really the only treatments that worked were very toxic, the kind of treatments that kill normal cells as well as your cancer cells. Basically, chemo kills any fast-growing cell. But now there are
on it in you know, Mukherjee's the Emperor of All Maladies, about cancer. It's been around and it's been talked about for 100 years. But I'm sorry.
Yes,
go ahead.
There's something. Well, no, thank you. I'm glad you said that, because there's something called Coley's toxins, which was 100 years ago. This doctor, this researcher, said, you know what? I can what's the word? Fortify or regenerate the immune system with these toxins. And he was ridiculed, but what he did worked. However, it came at the same time. It came simultaneously to the advent of chemo and radiation. So those Coley's toxins thing, that was just put on the shelf for all these years. And then until people like James Allison came along and Ron Levy at Stanford and these geniuses who knew in their heart and in their mind that immunotherapies do work, especially, and this is the good news for people like me who have a blood cancer, especially with lymphoma and leukemia. You know, they respond really well to immunotherapies for obvious reasons. I mean, we know that our lymph nodes, that is directly, part of or linked to your immune system. Mm-hmm. So, am I making sense? I hope I'm not getting too. But I've been lucky in that I have a cancer. If anybody can be lucky and have cancer, I have been lucky, because I'm living in a time when these things are coming. They're coming, and some of them are approved. I did a radioimmunotherapy clinical trial in 1999, and it gave me a long remission. The chemo had only given me 2.5 years. So all of this has become part of my work. Again, I'm still a journalist. I'm not a scientist. I write about a lot of things. I write about politics and music and sports. But
you mentioned Newsweek was.
Yes.
Where did you start journalism? Was it in college? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I was a San Diego State journalism major.
I was going to say, I remember you were writing for San Diego State because
the San Diego State logo here.
That made me think of the late Bradley Fikes as well, who was also.
Brad was a dear friend. We were at the Daily Aztec together.
Okay.
He was a couple years before me, but we were close friends for all these years. And you and I have talked about Brad before. He was an amazing guy. He was a science writer and a brilliant guy. We would clash sometimes. He was an iconoclast. He was an oddball in terms of some of his views, but we loved him. He was such a good person, and we miss him a lot. But we kind of same generation. I was almost the same time we were at San Diego State, and then I was at the UT for a few years, and then People Magazine hired me, and then Newsweek hired me, and then I was at Newsweek for 23 years, even when they changed I left for a little while, but then when they merged with Daily Beast, they brought me back. And then when the International Business Times bought them, then they brought me back. So total of 23 years with Newsweek. It's been my, it was, like I said, it was my dream job from the time I was a little kid watching the Watergate hearings, and just that whole sort of Woodward Bernstein, that whole thing was had such a great appeal to me because I love to write and I love to talk about politics and all that stuff. So it's been a good run, but again, as I said, the cancer has really sort of altered my path a little bit, obviously, but not just health-wise, but also career-wise.
Is that what led you to Healthline?
Yeah, I mean, I've been admiring Healthline for a while, and I was writing books, and everything was going well with my cancer patient initiatives, which has been my primary source of income for a long time. And I'm not trying to get rich. I just want to help people and put my daughter through college. That's all I want to do. And pay our mortgage too, by the way.
And go to Bella Vista.
Food, you forgot food. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Eating. Right. Now I'm starting to lose my money. Eating, mortgage. Wow, it's adding up here now. But yeah, I was an admirer of Healthline. I started reading them, and I contacted them saying, I would love to work for you. I sent them my resume, and they were, I think they were pretty impressed, I guess. And they sort of gave me a shot, and I've been writing ever since. And it's a terrific publication because, like I said, they really do care about journalism. And I've covered a whole array of types of stories and related to health, but I have focused largely on cancer and now COVID. I've been writing stories on COVID in our military. And we all remember the Theodore Roosevelt, the carrier where the skipper was kicked out of the Navy basically for trying to save his crew, and now they're talking about reinstating him. He's a good man. He was well liked. To me, that was a huge blunder. But again, I didn't editorialize in the story, but I did think that was a mistake because all he was trying to do was protect his crew, and they love him for that. So it's been.
Can you talk?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I know you're with Healthline, and in today's world where you cannot always believe what you read, can you speak to legitimacy and how Healthline works to ensure a high level of legitimacy and integrity of the information they put out there? Because people need to feel secure when they go to a place like Healthline to know that it's legitimate, it is rooted in science. And as science changes, the information will change also. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. That's a nice question. Thank you. It's real journalism. We have real editors who have, decades of experience in journalism. There's so many online. We all know, we've all had this conversation, but you don't know what's credible and what isn't. It's very difficult for people to differentiate the real fake news with real news, and Healthline is real news with very, very rigorous fact checking, like we used to do in the old days, where every fact we present has.
In the old days.
I sound like an old journalism timer back in the day, but it's true. It's things that are online. You just don't know. You don't know whether it's credible. I mean, I have a pretty good radar. I think I can pretty much figure out what's BS and what isn't. But even I've been fooled at times because you don't know. Because there are new publications online, new news sources that are credible, but you don't know because you don't really know where they come from, who's behind them.
Well, the gold standard to me is you guys, Healthline, WebMD, I hope, and
100%.
And the Mayo Clinic.
Right.
Although the Mayo Clinic can be so basic that you don't really, it doesn't get deep enough sometimes.
I agree. What I will say about Healthline, we are a populist publication. We're not a science, we do a lot of science, but Healthline is for the mass audience as well. Yeah. I think we do a pretty good job of building that bridge, between the science geeks and the regular folks out there, the science geeks and the regular geeks. Let's just say that.
I have a question. It's really good that America is being pulled up by its horrible COVID bootstraps to understand a bit about science,
Yes.
how to, what's going on, immune therapy and all of this. Do you think, speak to whether we're still a pretty anti-science culture compared to, say, Vietnam or Germany or something?
Well, without getting political, obviously science right now is being it's very tough right now for scientists to do their work with this atmosphere, this anti-science atmosphere.
And isn't that anti-science atmosphere leading, basically killing people, whether they know it or not? I mean, it's
in many different ways too, not just in like research, but also in things like the environment, which is being just destroyed in this right now. And I'm not going to get political, but I will say that these environmental things are having an effect on our health. Regulations are being tossed aside as anti-business, but the fact is, you can be pro-business and pro-environment. I've always been both,
of course.
And it actually, in many ways, it's better. There's so many environmental companies that could crop up if they got more funding. The solar companies, and bottom line is, this is a very scary age we're living in terms of the fear of and denial of science. It's just basically really, it's troubling. And it does affect my work at times, because people will call me fake news, and I want to come out and punch them in the mouth, because I don't write fake news, some of my stuff may be slightly inherently biased toward the fact that their science is real. I guess I can go that far and say that I do have that bias.
And that you've been a patient, so
I've been a cancer patient. I've seen people
through the actual process.
Yes, and getting cured and all that.
I mean, actually, you're going to tell us there really was a moon landing or something.
I know. Yeah, Capricorn 1, right? That was all filmed at a back lot in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey,
right
Jimmy,
around area of, what is that, 51? That's where it was.
Yeah.
In Nevada.
You wrote, in addition to everything you've done, and I don't think we're just going to scratch the surface for an hour. You've done music with the Beach Boys. I mean, you've had an amazing life. In addition to that, you wrote 2 books, one called Hope in the Dark.
Hope Begins in the Dark, yes.
Hope Begins in the Dark, and the other one is Snowman on the Mound. Can you talk about what moved you to write those 2 books and who the audience were for those books?
Absolutely. So I want to first thank you very much for bringing that up. I wanted to first say that an all new edition of Hope Begins in the Dark is coming out later this year. And we're really focusing on the science, Amanda. This book, I've given you a copy of both of my books, I'm sure, but I'm nothing if not a self-promoter, right?
It gets all the goodies, Jamie.
Have to be now, what?
How come Amanda gets all the goodies, Jamie?
What's that?
No, I get all the books.
I said-
Yeah, no, Amanda.
Leo got the snowman.
Oh, okay.
The baseball one. That was for Leo. So
Well, of course, it's a children's book. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I hope your kids liked it.
Very much.
But the Hope book, the new one, is coming out later this year. And Amanda, this is kind of cool. You might like this because in it, so what we're doing is this book is filled with survivor stories of all walks of life, including celebrities as well as just regular folks, lymphoma survivors. It is, I'm told, the most popular book ever published about lymphoma. We had 4 editions. We're in all over the world. It's been and it's just basic. It's a basic concept. It's how they survived. What treatments did they choose to use? It's nothing. It's not rocket science. But the new one is really focusing, because we haven't had a new edition in like 6 or 7 years. So what's happened since in those last 6 or 7 years is phenomenal in lymphoma. So we're all the new stuff. And what we're doing is we're focusing on the really innovative new treatments that are coming out, either in trials or recently approved. And several of the companies that are, and so what we do is I partner with the Children's Treehouse Foundation, which is my favorite nonprofit. They're also global. They're in 50 American cancer hospitals. They're all
You said the Children's
Treehouse Foundation. Please, people look it up, because it's a tremendous charity. all they do is support kids who have a parent with cancer. And they're often the forgotten victims when somebody gets sick, the kids. And I've seen this with my own family, it's just hard to be a parent. It's hard to be the dad I really want to be sometimes when I'm sick. So I wrote this book. It's written in the child's voice, telling his own story, and his mom is diagnosed with cancer. And it's been very well received. But that's the Pitcher's Mound book. So the Hope book, I want to get back to that because we are doing profiles, chapters, if you will, on some of these new pharmaceutical companies and what they're doing.
Okay.
And several of them are here in San Diego. MEI Pharma, for example, is right here. And they have, this one resonated with me because they actually have a treatment for the kind of cancer I have. And it's in late trials for people who failed 2 other treatments. And that means, that's people like me who are, if I get really sick again, I don't have very many options. And this new treatment coming from a San Diego company has been fast-tracked by the FDA, which means it hasn't been approved yet, but it's on the way if things continue to go well. And one of the really neat things about this drug is that it's very low toxicity. And that's such a plus for patients, believe me. Chemo was rough on me.
Jamie, are you able to say the name of the San Diego company?
Yes, it's MEI Pharma.
MEI.
MEI Pharma, absolutely. And so another one is Kira Oncology. They're also right on the Mesa, Amanda, within walking distance of Bella Vista.
Okay.
And they are, they have a treatment. Basically, they took this drug off the scrap heap. It had been shelved by, I think, Johnson & Johnson, I believe. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But basically, they took a drug that was working in trials, but which was not FDA approved because they couldn't figure out why it was working for some people and not others.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have a drug approved if you don't know, even if it's saving lives in trials. So years after it was shelved, Troy Wilson, the CEO, said, I think I can figure this out now because of the genome.
Okay.
I think I can now figure out the mystery of this drug. And they have. And that is also going forward quickly through trials, hopefully on its way to approval for several couple of rare types of lymphoma. So, and there's one other one, and I know you know Ivor Royston,
Yeah.
legendary Ivor Royston.
Quite a character.
Great guy, total character, somebody I admire greatly personally. And he reached out to me about a year ago or so to tell me more about his lymphoma drug for his new company called Viracta. That's Viracta. And what this is an amazing story. And I've been covering this for Healthline. This treatment can go after lymphoma patients who have Epstein-Barr virus. And because most of us have EBV. I don't know if you know that, but most of us have it. It just doesn't manifest itself. But most people, a good majority of people around the world have the EBV virus. And for many of those people who have it and have lymphoma, that EBV shows up on the tumor. So you can attack. This is like a viral therapy, in a sense. You can attack the cancer, and it's showing amazing results, like 85%, 83% response rate, something like that. That may be wrong. I'm sorry. That might be MEI Pharma's. I might be mixing up the response rate. But bottom line is, it's an incredible technology, and Ivor has done it again. Basically, this is another really, really effective drug, and this could actually treat as many as some types of lymphoma. 20 to 30% of the people around the world could be treated by this drug. It's really exciting. And just last week, they did a Zoom seminar like this with Ivor and also with Ron Levy, who's the brilliant researcher from Stanford, the lymphoma pioneer. So this is the kind of stuff I get to write about. And some people think it's boring, but to me, it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting.
How far along is Viracta?
They're moving quickly. Also, they're in. I think I want to say phase 2 trials, headed for phase 3. I think they've also been fast tracked, I believe. And forgive me if I don't have that right, but I know that they're moving quickly, and the FDA is definitely impressed with their work. The 3 companies I just mentioned, all 3 of them are moving forward at a rapid rate, a responsible but rapid rate. And they're all, they're all going to be, likely all 3 of them are going to be in your clinic, soon. So I love telling people about this stuff, because the general public doesn't really get this information unless it's a science publication, unless it's something most people don't read if they're not scientists. So I try to bridge that gap too, between the science publications and the other stuff.
It's fun to have Ivor on sometime. He started Hybrid Tech, the original biotech in San Diego, which branched out to a whole bunch of other companies.
Absolutely, one of the real pioneers.
And also,
probably going to be on with a couple of people. We're going to do how the Torrey Pines Mesa Biotech started. So we're thinking Ivor, hopefully Mary Walshock, and then we call him Ceviche. So Brent Jacobs. So that we're hoping for that segment to come together so we could tell the story of the history of the Mesa. I have a question.
Yeah.
You're focused on writing for patient advocacy for cancer patients. If you weren't writing about health right now, and you have this background with Newsweek and with People and with everything that's going on, I mean, we can't ignore the political unrest and all of the human rights that we're seeing being violated on a daily, if not an hourly basis.
Yeah.
What would you be writing about? Are you curious? Not curious. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather today. What do you want to write about? If it's not about health, are you passionate? Do you feel like I want to be talking? I want to do a piece about the gay rights that they were trying to repeal, about all of the environmental acts that are rolling backwards? Do you want to write about Black Lives Matter? What is it that you would, if you could write one piece that wasn't health related, what would it be right now?
I would say, Amanda, I think what I really want to write about, in addition to what I am writing about, is mental health. Not physical, but mental. And between you and me, I'm kind of breaking some news for you guys. I am going to write a book about mental health, and it's even more specific than that. I guess I'll tell you. It's about a certain drug that is used by many physicians, and it's a very, very dangerous class of drugs. It's called benzodiazepines. These are the anti-anxiety meds: the Zoloft, the Ativan, the what's the big one? The real big one, the famous one.
Prozac.
Thank you. No, not Prozac. That's a antidepressant. It's oh gosh. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it. It's very famous. They have like 6 of them, and I will tell you, I have to be honest. I never had anxiety in my life. I know a lot of people that have it. It's normal, nothing to be ashamed of, but I never had it. Even during my cancer, I never had anything kind of like a panic attack or anything. But when my cancer came back the second time, I freaked out. I had a panic attack, I guess you'd call it. And I drove myself, I got to a hospital, and they gave me Ativan for this. I was going through my second go around with cancer. And I just said, oh shit, I can't do this again. I was just like,
wow.
And I'm a pretty strong guy. I just had a moment where I lost it.
Sure.
And I thought I was going to take this drug for a few weeks as I went through my cancer tests and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? I took it and I didn't, unlike Jamie normally does, I didn't look it up. I didn't try to learn more about its addictive properties and all that.
Well, you trusted your doctor, right?
Right. Yeah. It was ER doctor. And I'm not calling anybody out, but what happened, guys, is I literally, when I stopped taking it after about a month, my body went into unbelievable withdrawal.
Wow.
I couldn't stop taking it. So I had to taper off the drug slowly. My body's very sensitive to medication. I've learned that from the chemo and from all the drugs I've taken for my cancer. I get usually it works for me, but I also get the side effects. And one of the side effects or one of the dangers of benzos is addiction. It's just benzo withdrawal for many people is far even worse than opiate withdrawal. And benzos are very quickly catching up to opiates in terms of the crisis. People are killing themselves on benzos. Look, they help some people, and I don't want to take them off the market, but a lot of people don't know the dangers of benzos. They just don't know. So I'm going to write a book about that. I'm going to tell my own story, but I'm also going to tell many other stories about this drug. And it's very timely because, in my opinion, what we're in addition to being in a virus pandemic, we are in a mental health pandemic worldwide. People everywhere have anxiety now, depression. They're reluctant to leave their homes. This is global. I mean, there's been nothing really like this in our lifetime in terms of mental health that I can remember. Even 9/11 was horrible, but it wasn't global. It wasn't every household being affected personally by this. I'm sorry, you wanted to say something.
Well, I was just going to say that my in-laws are in Brazil, and it's like New York 3 months ago.
I've heard, yes. And so it's, first of all, it's still here. This is not even the end of the first wave. And secondly, it's going to be around for a while. But even if we do, hopefully get a vaccine, which I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. That's not an easy thing to do. The repercussions on the mental health side will go on for years.
And generationally.
Generations. I mean, kids, this is affecting children in ways we don't even know yet. So, and I'm not blaming anybody. But I had a personal experience with mental health that I've never thought I'd have, because I've gotten off that drug. I haven't had anxiety since. So I don't have anxiety disorder, but people who do are normal. That's not unusual. Many people have anxiety. That's not something to be ashamed of, but please be careful when your doctor or psychiatrist or your primary care doctor prescribes a benzo. Please be very careful. They're not built for long-term use.
Is that what Heath Ledger died of? I mean, if you have
yes,
one great actor,
he had them in his system.
A few vodkas, and then you have that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are taking benzos with opiates because it enhances of both. It enhances both. So that 30% of opiate overdoses and deaths now, they had benzos in their system also. So it's something I feel strongly about, obviously, because it affected me. It affected my life, and I'm not here to call people out. I'm just here to help. I want people to know that these drugs are really dangerous. Some people use them and it helps them. And I don't want to take that drug out of your hands, but I also don't want to give it to you if you don't need it.
You've had the ability to work with Paul Allen at Microsoft. You've worked with Kai Fu Lee in China. Both men had cancer, and you yourself has battled this for the 20-something years.
Yes.
What has life taught you? What do you know now that you didn't know before? How your passion certainly isn't gone. Your passion for writing, for living, for informing people and educating yourself and educating the public. But what has life taught you? What do you know now that you didn't 25 years ago?
Well, some pretty basic kind of cliche things. I mean, mainly is, kiss your wife every day, hug your daughter, my daughter, that is. You hug your daughter, I'll hug my daughter. Just basic stuff, every day, things can change on a dime. For me, my life changed on a dime. I just suddenly felt this lump in my neck, so it can happen to anyone. I don't want people to walk through life being afraid. First of all, it's comforting to know that all these scientists are coming up with new treatments, but the bottom line is enjoy now, live in the now. It's a very Eastern kind of thing that people in America have a hard time with. Don't live in the past, don't live in the future, live for right now, because right now is all you got. And it's a cliche, but it's so fundamental. It's just, be happy right now, because we're all alive. Yeah, we're stuck in our homes still, but we're here. We can do this. We can talk. We can laugh. Thank goodness for technology like this. I mean, I sound like a total nerd now, but
No,
it's great to have this,
it's true.
right?
This is what has kept us sane and connected.
I know, and I love that you're doing this, Amanda, because you're so good at it, first of all. But you're such a great hostess, you know that. I don't have to tell you that, but this is the kind of thing that keeps people connected, and it's really important and reminds us how cool people really are. There's some really, really amazing people out there, and right here in San Diego that it should be celebrated. And I'm an eternal optimist. I have my down days, I have my anger, but generally I am just really happy to be alive, because I've seen so many of my friends die from cancer. Because I've befriended so many patients in my life, my career. Life is such a gift.
Recently, my fiance and I had a dear friend of, I think she was 50 years old when she died. And we watched her survive stage 3 breast cancer, and eventually it metastasized and went to her brain. Right. And as I listen to you speak, I think of her because she had called me when the diagnosis had come in. And she said, I just want you to know I've got cancer. I'm not going to call it cancer. I'm going to call it the C. And the next thing she said after that reminds me of you in terms of how effusive and positive and optimistic and full of the joie de vie that you've got going on.
Merci.
The only thing she said to me, she says, I have cancer and I'm going to love myself through the process. Does that resonate with you?
Laugh myself or love myself?
Love myself. Process.
100%. Amanda will tell you, I've never had a confidence problem. I'm a pretty confident guy.
I believe that.
But I love people as much as I love myself. Yeah. I think I'm a good person, but I also, my love goes outwardly also. Yeah. I don't think you can love too well if you don't love yourself. Wow. And I don't mean like total narcissism. Right. I just mean respect yourself. I like who I am most of the time, but I do have that love for life, and I've just been blessed with that. I guess part of it has to do with just your chemistry, who you are when you were born, but I think it also has to do with my amazing parents and things like that I've been fortunate. I have loving father and mother and great siblings. I've had a pretty good life despite fighting cancer for 23 years, but it's been overall on balance. It's been good, and I'm hopefully it's not over.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be.
But you never know. I mean, I'm scared. I'm scared of this freaking virus. I really am. I got out. I told you, to Costera, and we went to another restaurant. I only go to patio restaurants that are really seriously physically distancing. See, I remembered that. Yeah. But generally, I've been locked up, and like we all have, and it's been rough. It's been rough on all of us.
What do you think about the possibility of the Oxford/AstraZeneca vaccine? Is that like, holding hope out to the blind, or?
No, I think all these vaccines, there's so many vaccines now in trials. That's one of them. The Army is actually doing one now.
I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah, and it looks like they're on a real fast track also. And they can do stuff pretty quickly, but who knows if any of these are going to work. Vaccines are not easy. The good news, though, from what I'm aware of, this virus so far really hasn't mutated much. It hasn't, gone off in other directions as much as some viruses have, some flu viruses and other things. It seems to be pretty stable. And again, I could be wrong about this, but that could be good news as far as a vaccine is concerned.
Great. Why are vaccines so hard for the average person?
Well, one of the reasons is because viruses are tricky, and they find ways around it. They continue to evolve. They just want to live. These viruses are hell bent on living.
Yeah.
They don't really. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said they need a host. Sorry.
They need a host, right? That's why, a lot of people say it was a waste of time to shutter and to go inside. And no, can you imagine New York City if it hadn't done that? Oh, yeah. How many more deaths there would have been? I mean,
14th century.
Oh my God, it would have been unbelievable. And I totally get the other side of it. I get the economic side of it. I get the I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore side of it. I get it all, but just be kind, be responsible, wear a freaking mask if you're in public. It's not about you, it's about everybody else, because you could be carrying it and not know it. And when I see tons of people in groups not wearing a mask, well, I'm a little outspoken. Sometimes I'll say something. I'm probably gonna get myself killed one of these days.
No, Leo and I would go down the street and I go, selfless, selfish, selfless, selfish.
See, that's perfect. That's exactly how I feel too.
How are you gonna explain it to an 11-year-old?
Right. That's true.
The name of the drug was Oxycontin.
Which drug?
The opiate you were thinking that everybody was addicted to.
Oh, Oxy. Yeah. Well, that's the opiate, right?
The opiate, not the
Valium.
Valium.
Oh,
I was gonna say Valium. Like,
Oxy for sure.
Be popping the Valium and alcohol. It's scary. Like
but these things are, I don't think the public knows how addicting they are. One of my good friends who's my same age, had the same kind of lymphoma. He was in my original Hope book, Amanda, and he got on benzos because he was really having a rough time with cancer, and he killed himself in his car. And it's just tragic. And he had a great life. He was a good guy. These drugs change your brain.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's just your metabolism. It's not you. Some of these drugs people just can't get off once they start.
Yeah.
So I just want people to be careful. That's all.
And I think they're in a lot of cabinets in a lot of places.
Very much so. They're so common. I didn't know that until this happened to me.
Sitting here in Hawaii, which we were kind of freaked out, age, whatever it is, being in Del Mar. I mean, Hawaii is much safer. Of course, there hasn't been a case, not even a case in the 3 surrounding zip codes. Wow. But my daughter went back to San Diego. Nobody's wearing a mask. People are partying all over wind and sea. But but I want to ask almost a politically tricky question. First, everybody, on the left and liberals and progressives were making fun of all the chubby white Arkansas people in their pools down the lake, and this would spread out and all that. And everybody's on the beaches in Florida. And beaches aren't so bad, by the way. But all that kind of behavior. And now we have, Black Lives Matter. We have millions of people in the street, with the horrible irony that I would imagine tens of thousands of African Americans are going to die.
Yeah.
Result of that, or their parents are. And it can't quite be talked about yet. But do you think that's going to happen, or is that a little bit overly medical epidemiological to predict?
Well, I've had different views.
Kind of wild. I mean, what I mean is, you're in Hawaii, you're looking back on America almost like we're in a foreign country, and it looks pretty crazy over there.
Yeah. It's for sure. I would say there are differing views on how much the protest will spread the COVID. But I would say absolutely. It's inevitable when you have that many people that close together. See, the thing is, as we've all seen, most of these protesters are wearing masks. And that is going to make a difference. But there's no way that that group of people together for so many hours, people take off their masks, they sometimes took off or whatever. So I can't imagine they're going to be able to avoid spread, but I don't know how soon that'll be sort of determined, or it shouldn't be that long to know. But how many people are being tested? That's the question.
Yeah.
We may not know for a while, but I think for sure it's, and like you said, I agree with you so much that people on our beaches and just downtown and wherever we go, it does feel like we're in a red state now. And I have my conservative views and my liberal views, but a lot of the red states were, coming out pretty early and just being very defiant, saying, I'm just going to live my life. And I do understand that feeling. I do get that. But yeah, even the blue states are saying, F you, I'm not going to wear a mask. And it's like Amanda said, it's selfless or selfish. That's it, just show some concern for other people, or we're all screwed if we don't do that. I know that sounds like a kumbaya comment,
the
but
reason why I'm dragging my feet in reopening the cafe too. A lot of people, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? You have a huge terrace, all this space. I'm like, yeah, but we have to be able to ensure that, yes, there's customers, but that we open safety, right?
You-
And I have a son that I take care of. So, you know, now if I am up at the cafe daily interacting with all these people, right?
Yeah,
It's
you can
just
bring it back.
it's this domino effect.
You do have the outdoor. That does nice that you have the outdoor area. But I wonder what the Sanford Consortium folks think too. They might like, you know. I mean, I understand your reluctance. I do really.
That terrace is golden. Wind, sun, outside. That's, you know, the whole Wuhan statistics where almost everything was started inside, and outside much, much, much safer.
Agree.
More realized now.
But they got to go into order, right? So, and that's pretty small indoor area. So
They don't have to. They don't have to go into order.
I guess not. I guess they don't have to.
We won't serve indoors. So
Right.
we'll get there. Well, I know we reached the hour. Oh no, we have a few more minutes.
Okay.
We started late. But I want to say thank you for just opening up. Somehow people get on this show and then things that they weren't supposed to say or places they weren't supposed to go, they somehow go to. And it's funny because you see all these people talk about, oh, like, thank you for being vulnerable, or there's training now, right? They're training speakers like be vulnerable. I don't get it. I've always been a book, and I think you have too, right? And being vulnerable, it is a gift, and some people are taught it, and I think it is who you are. And you opened up and you were honest about, hey, you know, I want to write about mental health because I had this problem. And that's just huge. I know for myself yesterday when I was writing and we had meetings, I'm like, I'm turning into a recluse, right? Yes, we have to stay at home, but even just being forced to stay at home, now you have this, do I leave the house? Do I not leave the house? So I think we're all collectively going through this, like you're saying, this huge trauma, not only like physically having to stay indoors, but mentally there's so much going on. So thank you for being vulnerable, and maybe we'll start giving lessons on how to be vulnerable.
It's hard for some people to open up about their personal stuff. I've never had a problem with it. I want people to, I want to share my life with other people, and I like them to share their life with me. And I'm not, you know, maybe I'm an atypical guy in a way. My wife tells me that I'm more open than most guys that she's known, but you know, I'm gonna get in trouble for that remark too, probably. But no, I mean, I've always been an open book. I don't have much to hide. You know, I just think it's better when we open up to each other to know what we're really thinking. You know, and that's kind of why, maybe that's why I became a journalist, because I'm, you know, like John Lennon said, give me some truth. You know.
Would you like to close us out with a song, since you used to sing?
Oh, next time. How about next time? I'm not prepared.
I like My Heart Where My Home Is. I like that
song.
Oh,
thank you. That's the one I did with Randy Meisner from the Eagles, which such an honor for me to get him on a song.
You sing with him?
I did. He sang 4 songs with me on that All American Music album I mentioned. And you can find my music on YouTube, guys. It's, if you just Google my name, Jamie Reno, Jameiereno. You can find my music.
TV gets more advanced, we would be playing that music behind us, and during the breaks, you know.
Oh, no worries.
Fade in, fade out.
I wasn't about to say, Amanda, I'm not going to talk to you unless you play my songs. Sorry.
Do it. Cue the music.
That's the deal.
We're just gonna bust out with a guitar. So
next time I will. I'll rehearse.
Deal. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jamie and Steve and Alexis, for joining. This is always just a virtual social club platform where we connect and share stories and learn about you. And this is called Great Minds in Quarantine. So I think you really just opened up and let us know more about who you are as a person, and what motivates you to keep not going out there, but keep writing at the moment for Healthline, which, like you said, is #1. So I think a lot of people are going to start going to your site and following more of your publications. And I just wanted to finish with, if Steve could talk a little bit about tonight's segment on Science Squawk, which is with Abel Gutierrez and Steve Chapple, because I think that's pertinent. You know, we keep saying, where are the tests? into
Well,
it.
it is funny, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of misunderstandings about the test. People think they just take a test like they have a blood test or something, but you could take the test and 3 days later you could have COVID. You could be asymptomatic. When you go to a doctor's office, you are not being reimbursed. The doctor's not being reimbursed for asymptomatic tests. Like if you don't have it, but you do have it, but you're not showing it. And then you have companies and all sorts of institutions, let alone places where old folks live, but especially in San Diego, biotech companies, which have to get going again. Let's say the senior scientist is a woman who's had a breast cancer issue. She's 50 years old, and the PhDs or the lab techs are like 25, and they have kids, and those kids are back and forth and play dates. Well, everybody's a little worried. So the ideas of mobile express testing is this concept by 6 veterans out of San Diego. Mainly the founders are Rolf and Judy Mueller, or Judy Mueller-Cohn, and they've done a number of, it turned out that Rolf and Judy were both, well, Rolf especially, and PhD epidemiologists out of the Pasteur and out of Salk. So they sequenced the genome right in January and had it, and then began to realize that people weren't opening up. You know, there was no way to really start business for a lot of people unless they had this. And also, Judy Mueller is a breast cancer survivor, and their last company, they developed a lab on a chip for finding the just 7 in a billion or more cancer cells, called microfluidica, which is a little strange chip that's also become rather popular. So they were very aware of what the needs of industry and more are. Anyway, that's a long plug for the show, but that's on with Abel.
That's interesting, guys. I would love to maybe explore the possibility of writing a story on that. You know, that's interesting to me. That's newsworthy.
Well, then you can tune in tonight.
I will. Shameless plug.
Tonight, Tuesday night, I have a Zine Camisa whose son was murdered, and he forgave the boy who murdered his son. And so he'll Tuesday night, speaking of the path to forgiveness.
Where was he killed?
His son was murdered here. His son was going to San Diego State about 25 years ago.
Wow.
And working as a pizza delivery boy. And someone called the pizza shop, or ordered a pizza. When the kid got there, it was a gang rites of passage. A 19-year-old boy gave a 14-year-old boy a gun and tell him to murder the pizza boy. And so he got a phone call that his son was murdered. And 25 years later, he's hired the kid who murdered him to be part of his nonprofit organization.
That's incredible. Can I tell you a really quick story, Amanda, or are we done?
Yeah.
Just wanted that because I wanted to share with you. For People magazine, I covered a story on Amy Beale, who was from Orange County, and she was working in South Africa. This is during apartheid, of course. This was, years ago. She was working in the settlements, to help the Black population. You may know the story, but it blew me away. One of the most touching stories I've ever covered. She was murdered in one of the townships because they just thought, oh, it's a white woman. She's, and she was working with the Black population, really trying to change things and get rid of apartheid. Her parents were obviously shocked. She was just an amazing young woman. Her parents freaked out and they were just really upset, but they wanted to do something to honor their daughter. They went back to South Africa and met with her killers and hugged them, and they befriended them because they said that's what Amy would have wanted us to do. And even at her funeral, at her service in Orange County, hundreds of people, including a lot of African Americans and Africans who were living in America. It was just an incredible story of goodness. I don't know if I could have done that if someone had killed my daughter. That really is a test for a person, I think. The ultimate test, really. But it kind of reminds me of the story you just told. I always want to share that because
it's a very simple. Tuning Tuesday. I'd love to talk to you more about it offline.
Yeah. Anytime.
Thank you, guys. This is what we do. We connect virtually. So.
Absolutely.
I love you, Jamie. Thank you for all you do for
Jamie,
the cancer patient community. And we will connect soon virtually and one day back up at the Bella V.
Absolutely.
Right.
Wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Jamie.
Take care.
Bye.